One of your workout goals is to improve your fitness. Here's why movement integrity is important above all else. I want to first preface this by saying that the best workout is the one you actually do. So if you're someone who struggles to work out, whether it's motivation, you're concerned about hurting yourself, just know that the most important factor is to move often. Once you get in that habit, then you can focus on moving well. That being said, this is directed more to someone who's already established that habit of working out. Okay, so what is movement integrity? There's two key attributes. There's the movement standard and there's movement quality. Once you start moving often and you're beginning to move well, then you can start lifting more weight and moving faster. Let's start with what movement standard is. The standard is what defines a rep. Let's use a squat as an example. You start at the top, you lower yourself so your hips get too parallel or below, and then you come back all the way up. The standard is important because this is what is going to help you measure progress over time. If you are not establishing that standard each and every rep, then you can't compare the same exercise. Think of a movement standard like you would a race. If you're gonna run 400 meters, you can't expect to finish at 380. You have to go the full distance, much like you have to go the full distance in every rep. So what we do at Fuel is to ensure full range of motion is achieved is by ensuring every movement is done to standard. If you're doing a competition, then of course this is going to be able to compare reps to other people, but more importantly, it's the range of motion that's important. The second one is movement quality. Quality is how well you move. So let's use that squat as an example. If you're rounding your spine, your knees are caving in, your heels are coming off of the ground, you're not moving well. In this case, the standard's not important. The primary goal is for you to learn how to move well. Let's keep your back straight, get those knees tracking over the toes, keep your weight evenly distributed. Once you can grasp that concept, which is movement quality, then you can start working on the standard. And there's gonna be a lot of you right now that cannot squat to standard, and that's okay, but you just need to make sure that your goal is to learn how to move and then squat to standard. So let's assume you've got that quality. There is 0 point in lifting more weight if you can't achieve that movement standard for each rep at the increased load. Yes, in a standard, you can have poor form and still get away with the rep. That is a whole different conversation, but just know that when the standard is achieved, it's assumed the quality is also achieved. Focus on the movement standard, only increase the load if you can maintain that standard. The quality of the movement is ultimately what's going to keep you healthy longer and help deliver more sustainable results. If you're not moving well, it's only a matter of time when you go to lift something heavy or do something too fast that you end up hurting yourself. So it's important that what we refer to as pattern grooving or muscle memory is that when you are practicing a movement, you're practicing it perfectly. You want to make sure that movement is ingrained, that quality is ingrained. There is a degree of proficiency, meaning that your movement doesn't have to be perfect all the time. In fact, we see this when you're lifting heavy weights, your movement quality is going to sacrifice a little bit, but that's okay. As long as it is not below the threshold of not proficient enough, you can still move weights. We refer to this as bending, not breaking. Sometimes literally, your spine can move a little bit, but we can't have it go too far. This is when things start to malfunction and you ultimately get hurt. To just quickly summarize, movement integrity is understanding the standard, understanding quality, and executing both. So you might be thinking, shouldn't quality always be important? And yes, it is always important, but that degree of proficiency, that threshold is natural. But when that goes past the point of being able to do it well enough, that's when you get hurt. Do that more often, it's gonna lead to downtime, you're not gonna be able to exercise, you're not gonna be able to improve your fitness. So how do you recognize whether or not you're doing these well? Well, first you've got to understand them. Definition here, that's the first part. And then have feedback to correct it. Being able to give that film to a trainer and look to provide feedback are great ways to help improve your form. Sometimes mirrors help, but often you should be focusing on the movement and not looking at yourself while you move. Over time, that feedback and understanding the standard is what is going to ultimately lead to you doing the movement properly. So now to address the uncomfortable part, habitual standard cutters. People who are not achieving that standard consistently. There's two types. There's the ignorant habitual standard cutter, and then there's the purposeful habitual standard cutter. The ignorant standard cutter is someone who doesn't realize they're not reaching that standard. For the most part, this is the majority. The person who cuts standards on purpose because it's uncomfortable, because it's going to be easier to do it as opposed to finishing the workout properly. You're only cheating your fitness. Fortunately, most people aren't like that. That being said, this is still important to understand. If the standard is not achieved, neither is the rep. And again, if you don't have the quality yet, don't worry about counting reps, don't worry about lifting weight, focus on that quality. That's your primary goal. I think the biggest benefit to achieving the movement standard each and every time is the functional range of motion. Going through a full range of motion in a squat, ensuring you're going through the full range of motion in a press and a pull-up. I'm talking about lifestyle here. You want to be able to sit down and get out of a chair. You want to be able to walk upstairs. You want to be able to lift things up overhead. It's really a hack for fitness. It's sort of like you're stretching and lifting at the same time. Functional range of motion is what keeps you healthy. It's going to be far more time efficient, helps prevent injury. You're going to have fitness longer. Now that you understand all these concepts, it's time to put it to the test. Do you have movement integrity? Do you understand what the movement standard is? Do you have good quality form? If the answer to those is I don't know, you need to work on it. The goal for you is to improve fitness, then you need to have movement integrity. Don't be a habitual standards cutter, have integrity. Loss of integrity means a loss of fitness. You'll see better results, they'll last longer, you'll enjoy fitnessing a lot more.